On a full moon night, baby loggerhead turtles break out of their eggs and take their first steps for survival. Nothing too remarkable here, except this is not the nature park of Patara. It's the holiday resort of Tirala a few miles away. With no development, bright lights or noise on the beach here, baby turtle hatching is taking place under the supervision and care of local people, and yet only yards from restaurants and bars where holidaymakers are enjoying the warm evening air. Scampering along the beach, desperate to reach the sea, is when the baby turtles are at their most vulnerable from predators. Some don't make it, and for those that do, it's just day one in a long struggle to stay alive. Out of the 100 or so eggs laid in the nest, only 1 or 2 will reach maturity 30 years later. Then they may return to lay their eggs on the same beach. And if the locals have their way, the beach will be just the same as when the turtles left it, untouched and undeveloped. As well as the home of turtles, Tirala is a small resort with 100 family-run hotels for 2,000 holidaymakers, about 15 restaurants and a few shops and markets. Yet, in conjunction with WWF, it's pioneering a type of ecotourism which could lead the way for the rest of the Mediterranean. Here, they've ensured that development laws are enforced, literally reversing the concrete encroachment on the 3-kilometre beach. So the shoreline shops and restaurants were moved back to protect the turtle nests.
Yok, hiç pişmanlığımız yok. Böyle herkes için böylesi daha iyi.
There are no regrets.
Böyle daha iyi.
It is much better for everyone in the town. Maybe it's not so good for the tourists who want to spend their holidays overlooking the sea and want to eat out in restaurants on the beach. But in general, we thought it would be better to take the long-term view and to move the restaurants away from the nesting areas. We're happy with the decision we've made.
WWF also helped local people set up eco-friendly holiday businesses and assisted local farmers in pollution prevention. Pesticides were contaminating the soil and groundwater, so the farmers were trained in growing their crops organically. Unlike most resorts, where the big North European tour operators take most of the revenue, here, most of the money stays with local businesses, so local people and visitors both benefit from holidays in harmony with nature.
Fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. I mean, when I first came, these bars were actually down here. But they've actually, over the last 8 years, moved them back because of the turtles.
It's still very green. A lot of the places you go that have been highly developed, it's all concrete jungles. What there is here seems to be very low-rise. I mean, where we're staying is ground floor only. And they've used natural products, wood and so on, to build the hotel. It's not, you know, 6 floors of concrete. And
I like this place very much because it's very quiet. It's very quiet, and the nature is wonderful. Here are turtles, sea turtles, so not so much tourism. Yeah, and I like this area very, very much.
Loggerhead turtle nests are now growing in number. Local people have developed a sense of ownership, and ecotourism is on the increase.
Çok önemli çünkü bu kaplumbağalar olmasaydı burada buraya turist az.
Without the turtles, there would be only a few tourists here. Because we have the turtles here, the family lodges, the local people are making a lot of money out of it. Also, the local people are making profits from selling their homemade dishes and other products.
Following the example set by Tirala, ecotourism is now expanding along the whole Lycian coastline. WWF is developing with tourist organisations schemes to run supervised trekking and biking holidays along ancient Lycian paths, and to train 9,000 tour guides in environmental education and in monitoring the impact of the tourism.
Well, I think the WWF Cheverly project is quite an encouraging example of how you can combine tourism, beach recreation tourism type, with nature conservation and the turtle nesting. It's quite surprising that from the beach you can't see there's 2,000 bed spaces in the area, and that the local cooperative is taking care of most of the work. Of course, it's not maybe the typical choice for a charter tour operator, but I encourage this kind of development because it can provide very good quality also for the customer.
As well as areas of the Turkish coastline, WWF has also identified the Croatian islands as one of the last pockets of Mediterranean paradise.
Croatia is doing well for the time being, but it's only doing well because it hasn't opened up yet. It hasn't had the opportunities. So we need to see really what kind of tourism will be attracted to Croatia. Most British tour operators want to start taking holidays to Croatia from now on. This year, 2005, is going to be the main year really for the change in seeing Croatia as the new year where tourism is going to increase very fast.
Here, on the island of Vis in Croatia, the local people are deciding their future. As the most western of islands of the former Yugoslavia, the former communist ruler Marshal Tito used it as a strategic military base. And so it remained for 50 years, cut off from the outside world. Now it's open. With the decline in the fishing industry, tourism has become the main source of income. And more tourists are coming, attracted by the island's unspoilt beauty. Holiday homes in Croatia are now being snapped up by buyers in Germany and the United Kingdom looking for cheap property. But while a few unregulated developments like these have sprung up, the authorities have clamped down with strict planning controls on any kind of construction within 2 kilometers of the coast. The lack of development of Vis is seen as an advantage. It's become particularly rich in plant life and wildlife, and its traditional culture has been preserved. For the local people and conservationists, it's a unique opportunity to avoid the mass tourism mistakes of other islands and to develop culture and eco-based holidays which support the island's rich heritage and natural beauty.
It will be high in quality, but it doesn't mean it will have lots and lots of people, because such small islands, they cannot bear lots of people, because if you have high impact of tourism, then to some point you just go down with the quality.
Because of the decades of isolation, many people have abandoned their homes over the years, particularly the young, and left the island, leaving behind an increasingly aging local population. However, one young islander returning home is Ivan. Having studied in Italy, Ivan has come home to Vis to set up a restaurant with his father Nikša, based on traditional Croatian cooking with local produce.
My perspective for the future is basically very optimistic, because I know people are leaving the island, but those remaining are so much bound to it, to the tradition, to the culture, to the natural heritage, and they are so willing to preserve it, but not just to conserve it, but use it for the future development. So basically these people who are here, they chose something else, and we are here supporting them and promoting their way of living.
Throughout the region, WWF is working with local environment organizations like Sunse and major tour operators to establish a Dalmatian blue corridor made of a series of marine protected areas. The first of these areas, the Lastovo Island Nature Park, was announced recently and involves the Tour Operators Initiative for Sustainable Tourism Development, a UN-supported drive by some of the world's biggest tour companies to act together for a cleaner environment and to press governments to protect more of their natural heritage. It's hoped that the Lastovo project will provide the basis for alternative ecotourism and a blueprint for how the Mediterranean can be saved.
Well, the warning is that if we are not using this alternative kind of development for tourism in the Mediterranean, this area, this sea will be dead. Nobody would like to come here anymore, even if most of the tourists are using the Mediterranean as a pool without knowing that there's a rich biodiversity behind that. When they will see the quality of the water, which will be completely polluted, they would not like to come here anymore. This will be a disaster for the countries, for the government, for the tourist operator, and for nature.
I think the Mediterranean can be saved. It can be saved not in the stage it was in 100 years ago or 1,000 years ago, but I'm sure we can improve the situation of the Mediterranean. At the moment, we still have the eastern part in a fairly good sense, and if we can take care of the human impact in the western part, I think we will have a Mediterranean for future generations of tourists to enjoy.
So, while much of the Mediterranean has been destroyed by tourism-related development, there is a growing awareness of the need to change and to preserve what remains. Efforts are being made by tour operators, governments and conservationists to find a new way which will make tourism in the Mediterranean sustainable, a holiday experience in harmony with nature to be enjoyed by this generation and the generations to come.